Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/pettyrevenge. In today's episode, first vacation without kids in 5 years, looking forward to uninterrupted sleep, awoken by party girls next door, gave them an unwelcome early rising. Accidental revenge on an angry suitor. Property lines can be fun. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. First vacation without kids in 5 years, looking forward to uninterrupted sleep, awoken by party girls next door, gave them an unwelcome early rising. I'm a 41-year-old father of 3 kids under 9. I have never been able to afford a vacation, let alone one without kids. Saved up for a very long time to take my wife on her dream trip to Bar Harbor, Maine. We live in Kansas City. First night after a day of amazing hikes and boulder climbing to scenic peaks in Acadia National Park, we fell sound asleep until 3 a.m. That's when I hear the two 25 to 30-year-old women next door squealing in the hallway and constantly opening and slamming their door. I was young once, partied very hard well into my 30s, and I have a ton of patience. I gave them some grace at first. Didn't say anything. Fell back asleep, and 45 minutes later, they're even louder through the wall and in and out slamming doors again. I get up to say something and miss them as they are going back in the room. Fully awake, I notice the "Please do not disturb" sign on their door, which I promptly snatched. Spent 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. reading in the lobby until my wife texted me asking where I was. After we got ready and went out for breakfast, I was there to see the maid knock and enter their room to wake them up and heard their reactions. Miserable and hungover. I gave the maid a tip of $50 and apologized for their rudeness. It's the least I could do for making her catch a stray bullet. Edit. Some people taking this way too seriously. It was petty and an entertaining story. I was annoyed and inconvenienced, not furious. I ended up going downstairs and reading a new book by the fire in the lobby. It ended up being enjoyable. Also, I budgeted for the trip and sacrificed part of the $50 I was going to use to buy clothing or a memento from the trip for myself and gave the money to the maid. I've always liked asking the front desk for a wake-up call at 5 a.m. and another at 5:30. Hello, front desk? Yes, I'd like a 4 a.m. wake-up call. Every room except for this one. Thanks. I'm confused on why you didn't call reception and report them. They usually call or send someone to talk to them. Honestly, I didn't want to bother the person working overnight by themselves downstairs with it and have them get into a confrontation with drunk people. It's silly, I know that's what I should have done. I probably would have beat on the door a few times. And just as they fall asleep, do it again. Rinse, repeat. I bring my Bluetooth speaker with me when I travel. It's waterproof and I listen to music when I shower. I would have probably also play my music early in the morning against their wall. I hate loud neighbors. Ugh, I feel your pain. I travel with a white noise machine, cannot recommend it enough. I sleep with one on each nightstand at home, but just take the one on the road. Same consistent noise whether I'm home or on the road. It blocks out everything. I sleep beautifully. Love Bar Harbor. Gorham Mountain and Beach Mountain are awesome. There's so many more great hikes too. I highly suggest getting breakfast at Two Cats. Enjoy. Oh, and those girls were so rude. Accidental revenge on an angry suitor. Let me set the scene. As a teen, I was involved in a lot of live theater. For those that don't know, shows require several hours of nightly practice for months before hitting the stage. Being the eldest of my siblings, I also acted as chauffeur for them when my parents were at work. One particular Wednesday, I was tasked with taking my siblings to our church for the dinner, services, and other activities before my play practice. When we got to the church, my siblings went their respective ways, and I took the opportunity to eat dinner. Grabbing my plate, I took a seat at a random table and started making friends with the others seated there. The majority of my conversations were with a decent-looking guy that seemed to be close to my age, if not a few years older. We had a good conversation going, but my time quickly ran out and I had leave for practice. We exchanged Facebook information, and that was that. At the time, I did have Facebook on my phone, but the theater had terrible service reception and I often didn't have time to check my phone anyway. So it was 3 or more hours later that I got home to open my computer and see his messages on Facebook. He had sent a long string of messages that went something like this. Hi. Hey, are you ignoring me? Why won't you answer? F at hashtag KU. I didn't like you anyway. I was freaked out by the messages and didn't know how to respond. So I went to my dad and asked him how I should handle the situation. My dad went protector mode and started asking me questions. So I showed him the messages and watched the color drain from his face. Dad, shit. Me, what? Dad, I'm interviewing this guy tomorrow. I have no clue if the guy ever put together what happened as he got blocked on my social media that night. Needless to say, calling the daughter of the boss names is a very bad interview tactic, and he didn't get the job. I think that it is so cool that you felt comfortable enough to take those messages to your dad. I feel grateful to have such an awesome dad. Your convo with your dad may even have saved dad from a problematic hire. Win-win. Not sure if this revenge or karma, but either way, the angry child got what he deserved. The only way this could be better is if there was a video showing the AH's face when dad told him that was his daughter he met the night before. This should be titled, How Theater Practice Helped Me Dodge a Bullet. How people don't realize that someone might be busy is beyond me. General self-absorption and lack of empathy. Property lines can be fun. Years ago, I moved next door to a very competitive Type A finance guy. My wife and I purchased the worst house in the best neighborhood. I am somewhat handy and planned a complete renovation/addition. After a few years of small improvements, we decided to invest about $250,000 with an addition and complete facelift. I had the property surveyed, got the elevations from an architect, did site work, and completed the transformation. The house fit into the neighborhood and surrounding houses perfectly, basically improved/increased all property values. During the transformation, all the neighbors would stop by with compliments. Our 4 kids were always outside and we got along with everyone, even the competitive neighbor and his family. The last part of the master plan I had in mind was the landscaping. Early on a Saturday morning, my friend/builder went to a wholesale nursery and picked up about 25 somewhat mature plantings, including rhododendron plants. These were as big as you could buy, transport, and install. We worked all weekend. I put 6 in a row along the front yard property line of competitive neighbor. Monday morning, I get a call at my office from said neighbor complaining that the plants were on his property. They were not, and I explained the survey I had done for the addition, etc. He wasn't having it, and we went back and forth for a couple weeks. Finally, as he was fuming to his wife, my wife heard about it, so I called the surveyor. We talked, and he said he'd take a look when he could fit it into his schedule. I thanked him and asked him to put orange stakes along the property line if I was right and to give me a call if I am wrong. Needless to say, neighbor had been complaining to all the other neighbors about what I had done. Anyway, fast forward about 2 weeks later on a Friday, I'm taking a ride into my street and I see about 10 bright orange painted 2-inch square stakes up my property line to the left of the beautiful plants. At this point, Mr. Neighbor has complained about me at his fancy country club, and many in my small town heard about the situation. I found this out later. Anyway, I didn't say anything until he came over asking me when I was going to take the stakes down. Those stakes stayed up for about 9 or 10 months, just long enough for everyone in the neighborhood, and all the people who went his parties to ask him why they were there. My wife and I also went to some of his gatherings, and he was kissing my ass and asking when I was going to remove them. I always responded with a smile, "Oh, when I get around to it." Your neighbor sounds like a total douche. Leave them up indefinitely. Had a neighbor that complained that I mowed my lawn too low, and that I mowed several inches into his lawn. I guess I wasn't responsive enough because I came out one morning to see stakes with chalk line run between them to mark the property line. I said to myself, okay, and mowed along the string line. Fast forward several weeks and the grass had grown up along the stakes. He approached me on the weekend, asking me to weed whack around the stakes. I gently explained to him that they were his stakes, and if he wanted them weed whacked, he was welcome to do it. A lovely start to a fence, a nice orange fence. Make sure to string holiday lights along the stakes, according to the season. There is damn near a new holiday every month. Invest in a can of bright pink traffic spray paint for when the orange fades out. You sure you don't have room to plant more between your new trees and the boundary? Make a quick check about any fence restrictions in your community. If the coast is clear, I would call them a decorative fence under construction. My deceased mom had a somewhat similar story. Her neighbor overbuilt the parking area, encroaching on her property by over 3 meters, Columbus, Ohio, USA. She asked several times they fix it. Had it surveyed twice by 2 different qualified firms. They kept saying no. Previous owner said it was okay, we own it now. So she broke down and took it to the courts. A very acrimonious 5 years later, they are physically restricted within their property lines. Not sure where you live, but in Canada it is illegal to remove survey stakes. Maybe add some small windmills next to the stakes, pretty the stakes up a bit. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.